Okay. All right. So again, thanks for being here today. So my name is Kristen. I'm the Erasmus executive here in Global Galway, and with me I have Jody, who's the Outgoing coordinator, and who's the guru of all things outgoing. So you'll be hearing from us today. I'll kind of walk you through what's required, essentially, to go on your Erasmus visit in order to get credit, as well as the funding, which I'm sure you all want the grant. So we'll walk you through what's required. Okay. So we'll introduce who we are, how to contact us. We'll take you through all of the documentation, how to submit the application, a little bit about the grant. We'll walk you through your academic preparation, some things that need to be done, such as insurance, possibly visas. We'll leave you with a few to-do list. And then we'll just take you through some basic readiness to be prepared for your Erasmus study visit. And then, as I said, we'll open the floor to Q&A. But feel free again to ask questions in the chat as things come up. So as I mentioned, who we are. So I'm Kristen, Jody. This is where we are located at Global Galway. We can be reached here. Here's our email addresses. You can also pop into the office. I'll also be sharing our Outgoing handbook, which is a fantastic resource, and that really has all of your questions are likely answered in that handbook. So that's really a good first point of reference, but then feel free to reach out to us with any questions. So just a little bit brief into what Erasmus is. So it's the European Community Action Scheme for the mobility of university students. It's the European Union's flagship mobility program in both education and training to really enhance the European dimension of higher education through student and staff mobility. So its first flagship area was mobility, and now it's involved to include inclusion and diversity, digital mobility, and sustainability. And the University of Galway has been part of the Erasmus program since its start. So I probably don't have to sell Erasmus to you, but what's in it for you? You'll have a great time. You'll create some amazing memories. You'll make a lot of international friends. You'll be able to improve your language skills or learn a new language just by living abroad. You'll experience a new culture. Through this, you'll really broaden your horizons and both grow as a person and gain a lot of valuable skills, things like resilience and soft skills. And these are things that will be really useful to you in the future. And you'll also develop a lot of academic benefits. There are studies that those who undergo an Erasmus study visit period do have enhanced employability. So there's a lot that can come out of this. So while there might be some struggle in getting all of the paperwork done, and then it also just when you first arrive there, but there's a lot in it for you. So it's an exciting time period. And I said traveling is still the most intense mode of learning. We believe that here, and hopefully you will see that as well. Okay, so Erasmus does have quite a bit of paperwork, and this is all regulated by the European Commission. And then all of these do get checked by the Higher Education Authority here in Ireland. So when we say these paperwork need to be done and the deadlines need to be done, they need to be done. So just make sure that you do the paperwork, you do it with plenty of time and ahead of deadlines. This is so that you are able to go and are able to get the grant. As I said, these are European Commission requirements. So at the top, I mentioned the handbook. This is really a key reference for the entire process. We do suggest you look through it. Jody will be sending you a link to it. It's also on our Outgoing Erasmus website. And then this is a really good first point of reference. You could search it, you can try and find anything that you're looking for. But here's a little bit of a timeline and overview, and we'll walk you through each one in the following slides. So before you go on your mobility, we're going to send you some information that needs to be completed. So one is the grant application. So just as its name sounds, it's your application to get the grant. We will send you the link to this. You will also get from us your grant agreement. So this outlines, it's basically a financial contract. So it's outlining about how much money you're going to be getting as part of your Erasmus grant, as well as the terms and conditions of the grant. And then you also need to fill out a learning agreement, which we will also send you the link to. And this is an academic contract. This is to ensure that the classes you take abroad do count towards your degree here at the University of Galway, and that you'll be able to get the credits transferred in to move along in your degree program. So these are very important documents to get done before your mobility in order to ensure you get your grant and that you're able to get credits. There'll be some paperwork that needs to then be done during and after your mobility. So for instance, you're going to have to send us a certificate of arrival. This is a certification of your first day of your Erasmus period. You'll have to fill out grant acknowledgement forms, and this is after each payment. This is where you essentially say, I've received a payment on this date of this month, and you will sign it. This is so we can ensure that the money does arrive in your bank account. We will need a certificate of attendance. This is a final document which outlines your last day. And this is very important because your grant is based off of dates. So we do need these signed and stamped certificates. You will have to fill out a EU survey. This will be a link sent to you at the very end of your mobility. And then, of course, your last grant acknowledgement form as part of your last grant payment. So now we'll take you through each of these, but this is a good overview to look back on as all of the documentation that needs to be completed. All right, so some of these slides will have a lot of info on them. We will be able to see these, so you can use them as references. So what are some of the key documentation beforehand? So first is your grant application form. So as I already said, it is what it sounds like. It's your application in order to get the grant. And this will be an online link that Jody will send you. And it's very basic information, but it's information that we need in order to fill out, say, your grant agreement and to create our database of payments. So Jody will be sending this to you shortly after this in the next few days, and we'll be reminding you of a deadline. So the deadline to complete this is the 15th of November at 5 p.m. Make sure you take note of this date because we cannot accept late applications. So if you don't get your application in by this time, you won't be getting an Erasmus grant. So make sure you take note of the 15th of November at 5 p.m. It's quite a straightforward, but as you probably have experienced, it's when things are done at the last minute, when computers need to restart and things go wrong. It won't take too long to fill out, so we do recommend you do this as soon as you have some time. Following this will be your Erasmus grant agreement. This is the financial contract outlining the terms of your mobility grant. We will fill this out according to the information in your grant application. And beforehand, you also need to complete your learning agreement. This is your academic contract to ensure you receive credit. So just a few things before you start all of this documentation. Just remember that this is what we're using to create our database and our mailing list. We can only move forward if things are accurate. So make sure that you do spell your name correctly. If something's spelled wrong, we can't change it. For instance, if the bank details put in wrong, you won't get your grant payment. So just make sure you type in everything accurately there. So make sure you get your bank details ahead of time. You punctuate names where necessary. And this is a kind of disclaimer for all of our documentation. Digital signatures are not valid. They're not recognized by the European Commission. So do make sure that you don't use, say, a font to just type in your name. Do make sure that you sign the documentations. This could either be, say, you take a picture of your signature and put it in, but do make sure it's not a digital signature. It's actually signed. And that's just, as I said, a disclaimer for all of this documentation. So let's jump into the first one. So the grant application form. So again, this will be a link that Jody is going to send you. It's your basic information. So things like type in your name as it appears on your passport. One name is sufficient unless you usually use two. Essentially just be consistent throughout. So if you want to use Irish or English, pick one name, stick to it. One thing to note here is that the home address should be a permanent address. You will be asked to select dates as part of your grant application form. We know that these are going to be estimated dates. For instance, you're not going to know when your final exams are at this time. But we will ask you to select what you think the dates are going to be. And this is how we will estimate your first grant because it's based on time. So you may need to look at your host university website. They might have suggestions as to how long their semester is. For instance, they might have the orientation date. That's probably going to be your day one. And they're probably going to have information as well as when finals are. And you can kind of pick towards the end of that time. But do consult the host university to find out around what the dates of your study visit are going to be. In addition to this, we again will also need your bank information. This is to receive a grant. So just make sure that you're ready with this information when you start the application. Because again, it's very straightforward. It's this basic information, name, birthday, address, bank details, and dates, and just make sure you get it done ahead of time. You're going to submit it via your University of Galway Office 365 account. We do ask you only fill it out once, and you'll immediately receive an automated email that basically confirms receipt and provides some further information. Um, we'll be then in touch in due time with grant agreements, etc. But do make sure that you get this grant application form. And again, the deadline, 15th of November by 5 p.m. You'll also be asked to just check a box saying that you understand and have read the University of Galway's personal data and data policies, and that you're basically agreeing to the collection, use, and storage of your data. Just know that it's us, and we have a secure location that's not accessible to others where we save this information. We don't ask for anything that's not required. For instance, we can't pay you without bank information, so that's why I just ask. But do know we keep it secure. It's just us looking at it. But if you do have any questions about how we store data, feel free to reach out to us ahead of time. So I already alluded to this, but what happens if I missed a deadline? Unfortunately, if you miss the deadline, you can't be considered for an Erasmus grant. So you may be approved to go abroad as what's called a zero grant student, which essentially means you're able to go. You can do your study abroad period, but you won't be eligible for the grant. This is a very strict deadline, so make sure you get it done early enough that you're not doing it, 30 minutes beforehand and then your computer crashes. So we do suggest that as soon as you get this link, work on the application. It's not difficult, but we don't want anybody to miss the deadline. All right, the next is the Erasmus Grant Agreement. So we will send you this based off of the information that's part of your grant application. It's your financial contract. There'll be information such as your bank details. You will have to input your insurance details. We will go into insurance later, but having insurance is a mandatory part of an Erasmus study period. And then we suggest you read through the information here. It will outline what your estimated grant is, the terms and conditions. Look it over when we send it to you, sign, date, and then return it to the Outgoing Erasmus email address. We do say do this without delay. It needs to be signed and sent to us before the start of your mobility period. If it's sent after, we can't fund your grant. And do make sure you do it early enough so that in case there is something missing from it, we're able to spot it then before you go. And you will not receive your grant unless this is signed and dated before the start of your mobility period. So we will send this to you, as I said, based off of the information in your application. So I'm sure what everybody wants to know, how much money are you getting and when? So the Erasmus grant rates are set by the commission, and they're based on location. So as these are monthly rates and the month is a 30-day period. So this is why your dates are very important. We will essentially calculate how many days your estimated time abroad is, calculate how many 30-day periods that is. So say, for instance, you're going to Austria, that's in the group, that's 385 a month. We will calculate how many 30-day periods and then multiply that by 385 for your estimated grant total. So as I said, these are the 385 for these countries. All other countries are 330. There also is an additional 250 per month top up for financially disadvantaged students based on SISI or SUSI status. This is information that will be sent to us when you are already abroad, and then we will calculate this additional part in due time. So this will be part of a later grant payment, but you don't need to do anything for this. We just receive this information from an office here throughout the semester. So when are you then paid? So the grant is going to be paid in two grant installments. One is at the beginning of your study period, and this is dependent on all of the paperwork being completed. So we need, say, your grant agreement, your learning agreement, and your cert of arrival all signed. Once this is all, everything's all done, everything's all signed, we will then pay your main grant installment. For most people, this is typically within the, say, first 4 to 6 weeks of your time abroad. So you do need to make sure that you go with some funds to get you started. We will then send you that once all of the paperwork is complete. And again, this will be about 80% of your total based off of your estimated dates. Then the remainder of the grant, about that estimated 20%, will calculate what your actual dates are and pay you the remainder of the grant after the study period. Again, provided all the necessary ending paperwork has been submitted, we'll then send you that last grant payment. In addition to these, there's a one-time travel contribution. For most individuals here, it's going to be a 309. So there'll be a one-time 309 travel contribution meant to help your travel costs. So whether it be a flight and then a train, it's based off of distance from the University of Galway. But because of our location, we're pretty much in the same distance band to most places within Europe. So that's about how much your grant will be. There are online calculators to estimate this as well from the commission. But as you said, once you get the dates, you can kind of start to calculate out about how much your grant is going to be. But do make sure you go with some money to get you started, as this main grant installment won't be coming until, say, 4 to 6 weeks after the start of your mobility period. There is an additional a grant that is available, an exceptional special needs grant, and this is to assist with any additional costs for students with disabilities in completing an Erasmus study period abroad. So this is for things that, say, you wouldn't be able to go on the Erasmus study period without some type of support. So for instance, a service animal, certain types of assistive technology that is needed to be done. So there's a separate grant application for this. If you have any questions on this or think this might be something that you can avail of, feel free to reach out to us. We'll let you know if we think it can be qualified, what's involved in the application as well, and kind of assist you through that period. But do know that this is there to assist with any additional cost involved in completing an Erasmus period abroad, such as service animal technology, etc. In general, for students with disabilities, we do suggest that you inform the disability officer both here and at your host university. This will not impact your ability to go on your study abroad period. This is really just to ensure that you do get the supports that are needed, whether it be extra time, etc. But if offices are not aware of this, the university is not able to support you. But again, do contact us if you have any questions on this. But we do suggest that if you need any supports, do reach out to the disability office, both here and at your host, to ensure that all of the supports required are there for you so you can have the best experience. So the Erasmus grant. So as we said, it is contract you're going to be signing, and so a breach of contract can occur. So for instance, you fail to complete the agreed study abroad program, or there is a minimum of 2 months abroad. So if you fail to complete either of these, you may be asked to return the entire grant or a portion of the grant to us. So if you return home without completing the agreed study period, but did over two, we'll basically calculate what your grant should have been based off of, say, a 2.5 month period, and you'll be asked to return the rest of the grant to us. Also note that if you do even shorter, you might be asked to return the entire portion of the grant. In addition to having to return part of the grant, this could also have implications for your degree and your fees here at the University of Galway. So if anything does come up, definitely let us know as soon as possible. We're here to help you and assist. We understand that things do happen. Unfortunately, things do. But we can't help you unless we know. And the sooner we know something has happened, the more likely we can intervene with a solution that is beneficial to all parties involved. So if you say you come home and you don't let us know for months, there's not much we're going to be able to do, but ask you to return the whole grant. But if you let us know that something is happening earlier, we'll be able to assist. So we understand things happen, but do note that you have signed a contract. So if something is going to be changing, let us know as soon as possible, and we'll do our best. We will be able to work with you then and let you know what all of the options are. But we can only do that if you let us know. So definitely let both of us know as soon as possible if a change to your study abroad period is going to be happening. And we'll be happy to help you and walk you through the various options. But again, you have to let us know. We unfortunately can't read minds. But so do let us know, but do just note that if something isn't completed as outlined, you will be asked to repay part of the grant. So that's all the grant information. So part of the process before your mobility is something called your learning agreement. And this is really about your academic preparation to make sure that you get credit for your time abroad. And this is also required before the start of your mobility period. So in addition to the learning agreement, we just want to highlight this here. You're likely going to have to fill out an application to your host university. This is set by your host. We don't know other universities' deadlines or processes, but make sure that you check your email addresses. Check every once in a while your spam or your junk to make sure it didn't go there. But your host university is going to send you something. So make sure you read the emails if they have deadlines and applications. Make sure you adhere to them. They're also likely unmovable. So if you miss a deadline, you might not be able to go. So do make sure that you read any emails that come from your host, you follow all their deadlines. They're also likely going to send you information quite early on about accommodation. It might be information such as applying for on-campus housing. Do read those emails as well. We're not able to assist with housing in other cities and universities, so make sure that you read the information from them in addition to what you get from us. So then on the academic side, from us, as well as your host university, is your learning agreement. We'll walk you through that in the next slides, but note that this is also a European Commission guidance and rule. The learning agreement has to be signed prior to the start of your mobility. We won't be able to give you your grant unless this is signed. So do make sure that you also focus on getting your learning agreement completed. This is going to be signed by two coordinators, your University of Galway coordinator and your academic coordinator at your host. So any questions about filling this out can be sent to your academic coordinator here. Essentially, what they are doing is making sure that the courses you take at your host can be converted into credits here, and that they'll be able to, when your transcript gets sent from your host, they'll be able to say, oh, great, check, we'll move you on to your next year. So you want this to done because you don't want to have to repeat a semester and repay fees. So it is very important. So liaise with your academic coordinator. There is a list of academic coordinators in the handbook that we will send. In addition to some other academic preparation is a language. So it's not a requirement, but we do advise you could take this free OLS assessment. It's an online linguistic assessment. It's free, but when you complete it, you do get access to free courses. So we're just sharing it with you for info, but feel free to go through it and get some kind of basic language skills up and running before you go abroad. So we'll dive some into the learning agreement. Again, this is the third piece of information that's required before the start of your mobility. They don't have to be done in order, so you can also be starting your learning agreement talking to your coordinator. But as I said, this is the academic contract for your studies. So what it's going to state is the courses you're going to take at your host, the number of credits you're going to receive, and exactly how it's going to be recognized by the University of Galway. And so because it has two different universities on it, it's going to require two different academic coordinators sign off. It's your one here and at your host as well as yourself. So your academic coordinator here can really help you to identify what courses to take and the correct person to sign your agreement at your host university. Just letting you know, there is a section called mobility period. This is for changes, so do not fill this out at this point in time. This is say, for instance, you get there, you can't register for a certain class, you change to a different one. It'll have to be signed off again. We understand there's a lot of signing to do as part of this, but it is very important because you do want to make sure that you get credit for your time here. So it's not for nothing. So just make sure that if you do change your courses, you fill out this section then, but you can ignore that for now in your first round of signatures. So this is what it looked like in its paper format, but we now use a digital learning agreement. There's a link for it here. This means you don't have to be downloading and emailing papers back and forth. So it does make things a little bit easier in that sense. We have very detailed information on completing this in the handbook. So again, we suggest look through this. Jody has made a video walking. Oh,
No, that
that's
was the
great.
training ships.
Mixing up.
We do,
But yeah.
there's a PDF document on our site that goes through the digital learning agreement for studies, which is the one that you guys are
Yeah.
doing. And it'll take you through it and show you how to do it. So I really do advise, go to our website and look at the PDF instructions. I'm also going to send you a link to the instructions as
Yeah.
well. And if you've got any questions, just send me an email.
Yep. And then kind of any academic questions, go to your academic coordinator. We really tried to put a lot of information on the website, so we do suggest to look through there as well. You may also see this called DLA for Digital Learning Agreement. Sometimes you'll see it called OLA, Online Learning Agreement, but it's all the same thing. Just know that you need to get that completed.
And I may switch back and forth between DLA and OLA,
Yeah.
so please try not to get.
Yeah. Pay attention to the LA learning agreement. But just make sure, as I said, we will send you the link to doing this. It's just setting up the courses you're going to take and who needs to sign it. But again, this needs to be completed, and completed means fully signed in order to receive your first grant payment. So this should be done before the start of your mobility period. We will be checking this at the time of making our first payments. So even if you get all of your other paperwork in, but your learning agreement isn't signed, we won't be able to send you your first grant payment. So we'll then tell you this isn't signed, get it signed, and then we'll have to have you be part of the next. So that can delay your grant payment by up to a month. So really make sure that you do get this signed. You don't want to have your payment continue to be delayed. So do make sure that these kind of three documents, you have your application, your grant agreement, and your learning agreement are done before the start of your mobility period, or you won't be receiving your first grant payment. Again, these are rules that we have to follow. They get checked. So just make sure that, you just check them off, move along through the documentation. So part of Erasmus, I alluded to this, you will have to put your insurance information on your grant agreement. So private travel insurance is a mandatory part of the Erasmus grant agreement contract. We are not insurance brokers, so we're unable to tell you what policy to select, what you should be selecting. We can't offer different insurances, but we do have information on our website about what you ideally should be covered for. So for instance, you might have an existing health policy. Check what's covered. We have a whole list, as I stated, here's our website, Outgoing Student/Health Insurance. We have a full list of information that you should be looking for in a insurance policy. So refer to that, look at anything that you might already have, refer to this website if you're shopping for insurance. But do note that you will be required to put down the name and your insurance policy number on the grant agreement. We don't check, we're not going to be looking up this information, but you do need to put this down, and without having insurance information on your grant agreement is not considered complete. In addition to having this private travel insurance, you also must hold a European health insurance card if eligible. Everybody from the EU or residents can apply for it. So go to the website. It's quite simple to follow through and apply for this. It's better to have health insurance, travel insurance, and not need it than to need it and not have it. We have seen things come up over the years, and we don't want anybody to be stuck. And again, it's a mandatory part. So do make sure that you look at this. You search for a policy that suits what's required and your needs as well. And then again, if anything comes up during your time where you might be utilizing your insurance, also again, do let us know. We will try everything we can to assist you if anything happens. And unfortunately, things do happen. So let us know and we'll assist you. So a question on visas. Will you need a visa? So if you're not an EU citizen, you may need a visa for your studies in your destination country. So while I wish I could grant visas, I unfortunately cannot. We have no control over processing times, over what's required in an application, and we're not able to tell you if you need one or not, because each of your circumstances, your citizenships, your current visas, your stamps are different. So we do say that if you're not an EU citizen, do investigate, do a Google search, check with your destination's country's embassy here in Ireland as to whether you need a visa or not. And then based on the information, if they tell you you need a visa, do apply early. Visa processing times can be quite long. And as I said, we unfortunately have no way to expedite this. Um, we have no say. I wish I did. I wish I had power over visas, but I don't. And as I said, we unfortunately can't tell you if you need one or not because it's based off of very personal circumstances. So do the research ahead of time. If something comes up or say you need to apply for one, you just need a letter, you're a student, that's something we can help you with. But we can't do anything else with the visa. Um, Unfortunately, I wish I had the power, but I don't. So do make sure that you look up this ahead of time. If something happens and say you unfortunately can't get on a plane, there's really nothing we can do. And just note that this also applies to UK citizens who only hold a British passport. So if for any reason you think you might need a visa, start doing the research, reach out to your destination country's embassy and start any required paperwork as soon as possible. And then just in general, be prepared to you've completed all of your pre-paperwork. We do suggest you do some research as to where you'll be going. You can look at the university website, tourism websites. We do have reports from former students online, so you might be able to look on there. They might give some good pro tips or things that they really enjoyed when they were there. Can go old school, some travel guidebooks, etc. There is an Erasmus Plus app as well as this Just Landed website. It's helpful to kind of orient you with different cultures. We also suggest you look at the Department of Foreign Affairs website. They have advice on Pacific countries. So things like outlining maybe some Pacific local laws that you should be aware of, what the safety like is in different areas. We also suggest that you register your destination location with the Department of Foreign Affairs. This is so that if anything comes up, they know you're there and can help. And again, you don't want this to happen, but you'd rather be registered. Um, and then that you can be assisted than to be stuck somewhere if something happens. And unfortunately, things do happen. We do see cases of unfortunately shootings or instance last year, you just had power outages that happened. And so it's just life happened. So we do suggest that you register with the Department of Foreign Affairs. It's better to be prepared in that sense. And we also say that you note the contact details of the Irish Embassy or consulate in your host country as well. It's a good point of reference if anything's needed. Some of them also host events, so it's just good to be noted for that fun part as well. So these are things we just note that you look up and register for ahead of time. They're not requirements, but we do recommend. So some things on your to-do list outside of all of your paperwork is again to arrange your travel insurance and your European health insurance card. Do make sure your passport is valid for at least 6 months after your final return trip. Some airlines won't let you go on a plane if not. And again, unfortunately, I don't have any power over this. I really wish I did. But do make sure that this is done beforehand. Any kind of just look up when you're looking up information, a certain type of online banking is needed for your presence there. Maybe you have to set your Bank of Ireland card to be able to use somewhere so you don't get locked out. You can consider getting an international student card. Sometimes they offer discounts and different things in different areas, something to consider and research. Definitely start researching accommodation in your destination kind of city or town. This can also be looked at through your host university as well. We do have a Facebook group if you're still on Facebook. So if you're there, join it. We will add updates there as well. So again, some things will also be sending you a letter of nomination confirming that you're an Erasmus student. We'll be sending you the link to your grant application form and your grant agreement following that. We'll also send you some other information like the Erasmus Student Charter, Erasmus Timeline, and a safety advice sheet. Make sure you pay attention to kind of any emails that we send you. They will include important deadlines. And again, if a deadline is missed or you don't see an email from us, that could result in you repaying part of your grant back.
Can I jump in for a
Yep.
second? One thing you just reminded me when you said we'll be sending you emails. Please continue to check your University of Galway email inbox, because that's the email that we will be using to contact you. And that's the email address that we expect you to use when you're contacting us. One thing that we see every single semester is students unfortunately either lose their phone or their phone gets stolen, or you switch phones, and then because of MFA, you lose access to your University of Galway email address, or you can't sign in, or something happens. You need to have access to your University of Galway email throughout the entire duration of your study visit abroad. So please keep checking your University of Galway email, make sure you have access to it. If something happens to your phone and you lose access, you have to contact ISS immediately in order to regain access, because that's what we'll be using to communicate with you. Check your junk folder as well, because a lot of emails either from the European Commission or from your host university for some reason ends up in student junk folders, and then you don't see it. So I'm just going to stress again, please just make sure you have access to your University of Galway email, and that's the one that you check regularly and you use to contact us.
Yes. It all goes smoothly and easily. It's done on time, but we'll be contacting you via that.
Yeah.
So just your reminder of the deadline here. If we don't receive your grant application, you're not getting a grant. That's your first step. That's due the 15th of November by 5 p.m. So do make sure you look out for the link, you get your grant application done. That's going to kickstart all of the process from there. So do make sure you get that done on time. We can't accept any of these late. Okay, everything beforehand. Now we're shifting to the key documentation that's going to be done during your mobility. So again, handbook, key reference. That's your first point of reference for any questions. The first thing you're going to be doing during your mobility is your certificate, cert of arrival. They sometimes have slightly different names, but same kind of gist. It's something about your start date. So we call them cert of arrival. This is something that your host university is going to fill out. It's going to say your name, arrived on this date. They're going to sign and stamp it. It's very standard part of Erasmus. We do it for incoming students here during orientation. You will then send us your cert of arrival. This is essentially certifying your start date. And as we already said, your grant is calculated based off of your exact dates. So it's very important that we get your dates certified as to calculate your grant. So this is a very simple form. Your host universities are likely going to do it during orientation, but do make sure you get it signed, dated, and stamped. Has to have all three done, signed, date, stamp. Send it to us. Then that's done. We certified your start date. Once we get, you submitted all three of your other documentation, you sent us your cert of arrival. Great, we're able to send you your first grant payment then. We can't do that without your cert of arrival. So we get that done. We send you your first grant payment. Once you get the payment in your bank account, send us the grant acknowledgement form. Again, it's very simple. It's just saying, I, name, received this much money on this date, sign. Again, it needs to be a signature. It's very simple. We just want to make sure that it gets to so say you did accidentally put in a number wrong and you don't get the payment. We have no way of knowing unless we get these forms back. So do make sure you send us, and this has to be done after each payment. So you might be submitting 1 to 2 more of these. Your cert of attendance, this is like cert of arrival, but it's your end date. You'll be going to the international office there. They'll be writing the end date, your name, end date, sign date, and stamping it. You then send this to us. This is how we certify your end date. We then calculate what your then final grant payment is based off of this. So again, we can't give you your final grant payment without this. And if we eventually never get this, we don't know what your end date is, and you'll have to repay us back your entire grant.
Can I interrupt
Yeah.
again? With the cert of arrival and the cert of attendance, These are forms. I'm going to be sending you blank copies of these certificates. So before you go on Erasmus, I'm going to send you a blank copy of the cert of arrival with some instructions. And before you finish, I'll send you a blank copy of the cert of attendance with some instructions. One thing that's really important with both these certificates, as Kristen mentioned, the dates on these certificates have to be filled in by your host university. You do not enter your start date or your end date on these certificates. You take a blank copy to the international office at your host university, and they will fill in the dates, they will sign it, they will stamp it. They can either email it directly to me or they can give it to you and then you can email it to me. Sometimes these can be done digitally where you can email a copy to the international office there after you've arrived. It really, each institution has a preference in how they do it. But one thing I just want to stress now is that you do not enter the dates on the certificates yourself. It's your host university who does that. And any questions, again,
Let us know.
please
Yeah.
send me an email and just ask.
Yep. And then your very last thing is you will get an Erasmus survey from the EU Commission. This is also a requirement. And then once this is all done, you fill this in and send it, then we send you your last payment. So just here's your paperwork summary. It sounds like a lot. They have a lot of names and forms, but none of it is rocket science. It's all quite straightforward. Just make sure you get them done on time and start checking them off. But here's a nice overview for you. You're going to do your grant application form, your grant agreement, your learning agreement. You'll do a grant acknowledgement form. As the name sounds, you're acknowledging you got a grant payment after each installment. You'll have your certificate of both your arrival and attendance. These are your dates, which you need for your grant, and then your student survey. So here's a slide you can reference back to on the paperwork. I'm just really quickly going to walk through some readiness, and then we'll open it up to questions. So first on the academic readiness. So this might sound kind of cheesy, but it is true. You are an ambassador for both Ireland and the University of Galway. Which means that how you behave and how you act and your attitude will reflect back to the larger reputation of University of Galway and all of the degrees that come from University of Galway. I'm sure you are all proud that you're going to be getting a degree from the University of Galway. You're going to use this degree to get a job, to go to grad school, to move to the next stage of life that you want to get to. And so you want this degree to hold weight. You want it to mean something well. And so unfortunately, if say there are some students that are abroad, they cheat, they have a really bad attitude, those individuals that they interact with there are going to remember that. They're going to say, oh, those University of Galway students. And then they're going to say, oh, those degrees must not mean that much. And then what if that person is then on a hiring panel down the road? The world's smaller than we all think. So just to have this through your head that it might sound cheesy, but you do want to show up kind of with some professionalism. Again, nobody's expecting ever anything to be perfect, but it just expect that you're behaving well and that you just have a positive attitude there. Nobody's expecting perfection as part of this, but things that people are going to remember are things that you showed up with a good attitude. You use things like professionalism. You didn't email like, hey, use proper email etiquette, etc. So just be aware when you're going in that things might be different. There might be very different class sizes. The course sites might be different. There might be very different rules of engagement with professors, with teaching assistants, with other students. The style of teaching might be extremely different. So just make sure that you're aware of this going in. As I said, nobody expects you to know everything, but just go in kind of with an open mind. Maybe do some research, read what other students thought about from going there, etc., to kind of be prepared ahead of time. And all we say is just make sure, you're always utilizing professionalism, not emailing, hey, utilizing proper email etiquette. Simple things, read the course syllabi, pay attention to course rules. If the university, say, has ambassadors or other resources, utilize them as needed. There's resources there to help you. Overall, just be respectful and have academic integrity. And all of this will then reflect back on you, will reflect back on Ireland and Galway and on your degrees. And then just a little bit on emotional readiness. All of you are going to experience culture shock. At its simplest definition is the impact of moving from something you're familiar with to something unfamiliar. And we've all gone on holidays, and you said I'm fine, but there is something very different about moving. There's a lot of different causes. Everything's going to be new. It's going to be new environment. You're going to be learning new ways and a new culture. You're going to be separated from things you're used to. That could be important people. That could be routines. That could be your favorite food. Things are just going to be very different. And it can really happen, this culture shock, at any time to both something really big or something really small. And I'll just give my own personal example. Probably from my accent, you cannot. I'm not from Galway, so I can say when I moved here, thought I was going to be all fine. But I'll tell you, I experienced like a mind-boggling spiral culture shock one time in the office. I was with individuals, and I, grew up speaking English, same language. But I asked where the garbage can was, and everybody laughed at me. And it wasn't in a mean way, but it was just because it was a funny word. You would say bin, not garbage can. But when people kind of gave that laugh, I went on this spiral of culture shock of what am I doing here? I don't belong. Something's wrong. It was probably only 30 seconds, and then I was fine. But this is just to highlight that it can happen, and it's going to happen. It could be something small, like a word, or it could be to something very big. So just to get you prepared ahead of time that it's very common, it's going to happen, but you're not alone. Contact family, find something familiar there, to kind of help ground you. It's likely going to pass and everybody's going to be going through it. But again, if something does come up, contact us. We can only help you if you contact us. So contact us as soon as possible. We'll do everything we can to help you. And you can still avail of the University of Galway Counseling Service from abroad. So we definitely say reach out to them if anything comes up, as a resource. And again, let us know. We'll do everything we can to help you from here, but we need to know. Or if something funny like that happens to you, I'll know I'm not alone there. But just to kind of let you know, it's going to happen. So just final things. These are when we ask students what their key challenges that they faced were when they come back from their Erasmus study period. It's living alone, having to eat different foods, and adapting to the expenses of living abroad. So then when they say what's their key advice from returning students, budget. Again, expect to go. You're not going to get your first payment right away. And then that's going to be about 80% when you do get it. So budget. Other key advice from returning students, try the food, do some exploring and have fun. You're there to study, but it's also meant to be like a personal and cultural experience. So do enjoy and do that. It's an exciting time. We all wish you a wonderful experience. So as of now, I will stop recording and I will stop sharing so you can feel free